Now, since my wildcard video for Game Week 4, I do feel like a lot more managers over the course of this international break have been jumping on this chip. And in today's video, we're going to be running through the reasons why and the reasons not to wildcard, and of course discussing my draft for Game Week 4. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on today's on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 18,000 subscribers before the resumption of FPL and of course the Premier League and, you know, international football all gone out the way. Let's look then at some of the reasons why you might want to wildcard this week, because there will be some very, very genuine reasons why some people might need to obviously wildcard. Number one, fix a broken team. Either you've got too many players out injured, suspended, or I put out of form players here. For me personally, it would be more like kind of, you know, minutes risk players that are obviously getting early substitutions, aren't quite hitting 60, maybe they're coming off the bench as well. That is a period where I think if I had maybe 3 or 4 of all of those kind of picks, that is again probably one reason why I might want to activate the wildcard. Let's say, for example, you had a Saka, you've had a Frimpong, you've had a Cunha, you know, you've had a Saw, all these players, say you've kind of had all these injuries banking up over time, a Palmer. Now you're in a position where you're like, okay, I've used up all my transfers, the team still looks like a mess, and I can't really get myself into a decent position for the next few game weeks. Then I think that is a completely, perfectly viable reason why you might want to go for it. Another reason that people, of course, look to hit that wildcard button is to chase price rises. They are very, very aggressive, obviously, for going up and for going down at the start of this season. And some people might just want to build some team value. I get it. I understand that is obviously one of the pros of building a wildcard. You can bring in those popular picks, or you think picks where they might be popular in the next few weeks, and that kind of leads into the fixture swing as well. Targeting those upcoming fixtures, obviously not determined by the past too much, looking at teams that you think are going to have good periods coming up, trying to predict where they're going to happen. Obviously Arsenal, City as well, around game week 6, I definitely think there is scope to maybe look at an Erling Haaland. Obviously the Arsenal picks going to gain a lot of momentum over the next few weeks, so getting in early on them while you can still afford them might also be a reason you might want to, of course, activate the wildcard. The other reasons as well here, I've put a strategic restructure, whether that is going to be a change in terms of your overall chip strategy, or of course moving kind of, you know, your premium pieces around, with quite a few being injured at the moment, the likes of Palmer and Saka. There's a lot more kind of, you know, money that can be spent on cheaper midfielders that have great output, and maybe a little bit of a restructure in terms of your forwards. Maybe if you've got somebody like a Strand Larson, or maybe like a Thiago or a Gui, you want to kind of upgrade that position, like I said, because the midfielders at the moment, the cheaper ones are doing the business and the premium ones aren't quite available for selection. So there might be a little bit of a restructure like that. So there's some of the reasons I think you might want a wildcard, and the pros and the main benefits you're going to get out of a wildcard this week. But I also want to talk about the negatives, the reasons why you don't want a wildcard this week. Number one, I genuinely think it is just too early. Like I said, unless you've got, you know, stacks of injuries, or, you know, the team's just not quite where it needs to be, and it's not going to, you know, be a couple transfers to fix that, I genuinely think just sit on your hands, like be patient with this game, man. We've only got 3 game weeks worth of data, and we're making kind of conclusive long-term judgments off the basis of 3 game weeks worth of data. We just don't have enough to make concrete kind of arguments, or this player is going to be good for these fixtures, or this player is going to be great for, you know, this run of games coming up. We just don't have the data or anything that kind of can support that. So my honest argument here is, like I said, if your team's not just riddled with injuries, like, don't go and chase it. If you can fix it with a couple transfers over the next few weeks, just stick with it, man. Honestly, and I genuinely think some people could regret it a little bit later on. Say there's a lot of injuries, or, you know, certain players go off a cliff and all this. Like, you know, European football's coming around the corner as well. There might be completely different ways that a tide rotates. Maybe they have a stronger side out in Europe, stronger side in the Premier League. Certain players' minutes are reduced. I'm looking at, you know, obviously those Man City boys. Somebody like a Reinders could go from, you know, a decent 90-minute man. European football comes around the corner, he might drop to like a 60 and completely devalues him as a pick. Same with picks like Elliot Anderson as well. Their minutes at the short term have been great. But longer term, with European football starting to kick in, I do worry, are they going to see reduced minutes, kind of lesser in their appeal for DEFCON as well? So this is what I mean. Like, you know, you might be sacrificing that long-term stability for some short-term gains. Like, it might look good over the next few weeks. You might be like, yes, I've got the best team. We're in a great position now. But over the long course, you might be thinking, damn, I really wish, like, especially game week 13 where there's another big fixture swing, you might be sat there going, damn, you know what? I really wish I'd have saved my wild card for this period. I really wish I could have jumped on these players. It's going to require you to be a little bit more strategic as well with your transfers further down the line, and obviously hold your hands a little bit to build up some transfers for that big fixture swing, like I said, around game week 12 and game week 13. But honestly, for me, I think unless your team is absolutely riddled with injuries, just don't make judgments. Don't be, you know, obviously selling players that haven't started the season well just off a couple bad game weeks. Like, you know what I mean? Villa have got some great fixtures coming up, and I'm seeing so many people get out Watkins, get out Rodgers. This could be a period where Villa look really good. The new signings that they've made on deadline day could have massive improvements to that side, and then you're left with egg on your face thinking, why did I take Watkins out? Same goes with obviously Nottingham Forest picks. They've not been great at the start of this season, but after game week 4 and game week 5 and game week 6, they've got some great fixtures. So if you weren't planning on free hitting, again, that could be another period where you go, I really wish I'd have kept my Forest players. They've done well in game week 5 and game week 6. So I think just something to ponder on. Of course, if you are looking for the wild card, I still personally believe it is a little bit too early, unless this was always going to be your plan and you already had this plan set in motion. Then for me personally, it does still feel like a little bit too early. However, I have put a team together that if I were to wildcard, I probably would be pretty happy with going into this week. Okay, wasting no time, let's head into the back line then. And as you can see, I'd be pretty happy if this was my back line. I've kind of shifted out a few more of the premium defenders. I definitely think that is going to be a case and a kind of a case study that we're going to see quite a lot over the next few weeks. I think a lot more people are going to be shifting to 4.5s, maybe even some 5s as well. And just looking at the DEFCON numbers really, because compared to the guys where you're paying 6 or the 5.5, there's not too much dissimilarity between the point scoring we've seen early doors from these guys. Now, Gabriel is the premium defender we have selected here because, of course, Arsenal's prowess from set pieces, their strong defensive record as well, their projected numbers on the 11ify number are absolutely terrific over the next 6 game weeks as well. And in game week 7, there is a massive fixture swing for Arsenal, and I do think Gabriel is going to be a pick that most people would like to have for that time period anyway. But what we've done with the other defenders, so the Richards, the Andersons and the Senessis, is go for those guys that are going to probably pick up very good scores each week, and you probably wouldn't mind just rolling out with them regardless of whatever fixture they've got, because they've got the DEFCON contributions on lock. Senesi and Anderson as well have been exceptionally good at this at the start of the season, to be honest, and I don't expect that to change, to be honest. I think these guys are just going to consistently pick up points across the entire season. So why are you spending 5.5 or 6? I think these guys are just going to honestly be, you know, fixture proof, because we saw it with Anderson this week. His baseline has pretty much gone from a 2 up to a 3, even with conceding 2 goals. If they don't concede 2 goals, he goes up to a 4. And you could say that in, like, kind of, you know, the more positive fixtures where you'd hope Anderson could get a clean sheet. His baseline has gone from 2 last season up to 4. Now, across the course of the season, that is just going to add up and add up and add up. Like, it just is one of those metrics that is going to be a little bit broken this season. I think we're going to see a lot more people switch to this kind of, you know, 4.5 situation within the back. And if you really wanted to take it even more extreme, you could drop Gabriel down as well, and you could, of course, upgrade Sanchez to potentially Raya. Like I said, I want to get in on those Arsenal's decent fixtures, and I want to have at least some coverage for it. And I think that would be one of the big concerns I would have with a wild card. A lot of teams I'm seeing aren't putting Arsenal defenders in, and I think, look, in a few game weeks time, they're going to be the hottest property going, and if they do well over the next few weeks, like, I think people are probably going to go early on Gabriel, Gyökeres, picks like this. And like I said, if you're waiting around, you might miss out on some prices and maybe obviously be kind of left out of the market, really. So I think I'd probably go in early, stick with them for the few difficult fixtures they've got coming up. But I don't mind Forest. But longer term, I do think they're going to be some pretty decent fixtures to go for. In terms of our backup, we'll speak a little bit more about them in a minute and why we have selected them. In terms of the midfield, as you can see, we have gone for the double stack of Liverpool players. We've gone for Cody Gakpo and Mohamed Salah. Now, Cody Gakpo is going to be a very short-term punt. He's only going to be in this side for the next 2 game weeks with the Burnley and Everton fixture. I worry longer term what, of course, his minutes are going to look like with now the Isak move. Is they going to push Isak to the left? Are they going to put Ekitike to the left? I don't know. But I think early doors, Isak is probably going to eat some minutes off Ekitike. We're already seeing him substituted started around the early 70-minute mark anyway, and I think that probably makes the logical sense for Isak to probably eat up some minutes off him rather than Gakpo early doors within this squad. So that's kind of where I'm at with Gakpo. I'd like to have him for the next 2 fixtures. With this squad, of course, you are going to be looking at a free hit in game week 6, so we don't have to worry about him against Palace there. And in game week 7, of course, then we can make our moves, of course, get him out, maybe drop him down. And we'll talk a little bit more about the obvious opportunities you can do with Gakpo and maybe some of the other midfielders you want to go for, and maybe some of the things you can do with Thiago as well. They're kind of like a combination. I want to talk about it as a whole a little bit later. Mohamed Salah is going to be the captain. Like, people are already writing Salah off, saying he's a bad pick. He's not going to be, you know, the same player he was last year. Maybe that's the case. Maybe like his goal share is going to go down a little bit. But I think for security in terms of captaincy over the next 2 weeks, he just ticks that box. With us free hitting in game week 6 as well, we're going to get Haaland, so we've got the best captain for that game week. Game week 7, Bruno's got an absolutely amazing fixture, so we can captain him. Again, it's trying to find these captaincy matrix and figure out which position and which weeks I want to target certain players. And I just think for the next 2 weeks, for the simplicity of it, Mohamed Salah is the best captaincy option. He's also played some of the toughest defences within the league. We've seen how good Bournemouth have been since that Liverpool game. We've seen how, you know, Newcastle have been pretty resilient at the back as well. Like, there's a lot going off with this Liverpool side. Like, I still think the next 2 fixtures could be the games where Mohamed Salah absolutely goes off, and I would rather have him for Burnley and Everton than be on the side where I don't have him, in my personal opinion. I think, obviously, if it doesn't work out, 2 game weeks time, once you've got the free hit out of the way in game week 6, game week 7, maybe you do want to make that switch to Erling Haaland. You'll have a few transfers banked up anyway. That might be the period you want to go for it if he continues not to look like a decent option. Semenyo has been great, hasn't he? He's just lit the world alight, to be honest. I really think he could have a Brian and Mbeumo season. I've said it in a few videos already. I genuinely think he's at that stage now where he could take his performance levels up to like that next level where he's going to be comfortably hitting double-digit numbers. And I think Bournemouth as well have looked terrific over the opening 3. Like I said at the start, don't try and build, obviously, you know, long-term conclusions off certain games. But I think early doors we can say that they have been one of the top sides in the league. We can also say as well, this isn't like just a 1 season or 3 game trend. Like, they were very, very good last year for goals created. They were brilliant at it. They were one of the top sides for XG created within the league last year. I think maybe the only thing that changes is what happens when Kluivert comes back. How does that dynamic work? Does Semenyo still get the ability to go and get the mega hauls that we've seen already from him early doors this season? Or is there going to be, you know, a bit of a reduction in terms of his numbers? I don't think that is personally going to be the case. I still think he's going to be an absolutely fantastic pick, and I think Bournemouth have got arguably some of the best fixtures on the next few weeks. If you look at the tracker, they're all like grey and stuff, but I wouldn't buy into that too much. I think the way that Bournemouth play and their play style is really going to suit the Brighton, obviously trying to play out the back. So I think they'll have an absolute field day. We've got Bruno Fernandes in here. Like I said, game week 7 is where I would be maybe looking at a captaincy option for him. And again, I've kind of kept him in here as a little bit of a placeholder because you get that game week 7 fixture that is so delightful and where he probably is going to be a fantastic captaincy option. Then game week 8 and game week 9, you've got that ability, like I said, to make that switch to Cole Palmer. Like, that's where a period where Chelsea's fixtures really turned good. And again, that might be a period where when he's back from injury, he's looking good, maybe he's getting some points on the board. That might be a period where you want to make that switch in the future. And I think Bruno Fernandes, having him in there, does of course give you that option. Now by game week 7, Saka might be back as well, and we might be of course potentially taking a look at him. We might want to go for that triple up in terms of Arsenal players as well, with their fixtures, like I said, having that big turn in game week 7. So I think picking Bruno Fernandes, a player that very easily could be one of the top scoring players within the game right now if he'd have obviously put that penalty away against Fulham. And I think people are, maybe a little bit too quick to jump on people. And what I like about him is just the reasons that I selected him in game week 1. He plays 90 minutes. He's the main threat for, overall creativity. He's one of the best players in the league for that. And he takes penalties. Like, what more could you ask for? He picks up DEFCON as well. Like, the guy is just going to tick along very, very nicely. And I do think City are there for the taking. Again, we'll talk about Elliot Anderson in the final section and the overall bench and the reason it does look quite strong. Okay, let's finish up then with our 2 strikers. We're going to start off first with João Pedro. He's just been immense, hasn't he? He's really put egg on my face. I didn't select him at the start. I was really concerned with his minutes. And if you look at the game week 1, where he came off in the 70th minute, I mean, my hypothesis was looking great. Since then, obviously, they've got injuries to their forwards. His minutes have been very good, and his form has just hit another level, to be honest, and he has just been one of those great players. I still think the fixtures are there for Chelsea. Of course, it's looking like Delap could be out for a few more weeks. They didn't go and buy another forward as well, so I would say his expected minutes are looking very, very good, which of course makes him an absolutely excellent pick, playing for one of the best, obviously, attacking units for expected data already this season, and from last season as well. So, João Pedro, look, I got it wrong. Sometimes you have to put your hands up. I still think he's going to be a good pickup. So, yeah, fair play if you went from him from the start. Hope you're enjoying the points, and long may it continue for you, because like I said, I do think he is a good pick. The fixtures are there. The 11-5 data is suggesting that Chelsea's fixtures are going to continue to be decent as well. I am, of course, just still a little bit optimistic and a little bit curious to see what role he plays when Palmer's back, with the amount of wingers that they've signed, and how European football is, of course, going to affect him and Chelsea's overall rotation as well. So we're going to have to see it, but I think for now, he still is an absolutely fantastic pickup at that 7.7 million price tag. We've obviously gone for Gokeres here. Now, this striker position, I was a little bit unsure who to put. We could have gone for Mateta. Obviously, Palace's next two are looking pretty decent. We free hit, so we avoid the difficult fixture in game week 6. That is still a possibility, but I do worry, like, with the Sarr injury now, what is that going to make of kind of, Palace's attack? Is it going to weaken it? I probably would say so. So that, for me, obviously devalues Mateta as a pickup. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, I probably would want to buy into Gokeres maybe around game week 6, game week 7 anyway. So why not just getting him in early, get ahead of the price rises? Why not? I think that's the reason I've done it. Obviously, he's not had a good game week 1 or game week 3, but his game week 2 was absolutely sensational. And again, if it doesn't quite work out with him over the next few weeks, and he does look really, really disappointing, you're not fancying him heading into, of course, the game week 7 and the run beyond that, then you do have, like that I said, that ability to drop Gakpo down after game week 7, put a little bit more money into the attack, and if Isak looks really good over the next few weeks, you've got that flexibility to, of course, upgrade to him. Now, I've been banging on about the bench, and you might be why are you banging on about the bench so much, Tom? Like, there's quite a lot of strength on there. We get it. I mean, you've not really spoke for any of the bench picks, so let's do that now. We're going to use Fantasy Football Hub. Obviously, if you want to go and check out their amazing website, there is a link in the description. They're continuing to run their 50% off sale, so if you want to go and check it out, use my link in the description. Go and take full advantage of that. This team scored a 94% AI rating, so not too bad, not too shabby. But this is how the team would line up. Obviously, we've selected it here. It's selected Salah captain. Yep, no real qualms with that one. But game week 5 is the interesting week where, as you can see, if we optimize the team, I think this is very bench boostable, to be honest. It's actually put Dubravka in ahead of Sanchez, but I think this is very, very bench boostable for this week. Obviously, Arsenal not an ideal fixture against City, but you're looking here. Thiago's got Fulham. Yeah, Burnley players have got Nottingham Forest, so not too bad there. I like it. It could be a potential possibility for a bench boost. Get it out of the way. It's one of those chips that I do want to try and get out of the way as early as possible. And I think if I was the wild card, I would probably look at game week 5. And then, of course, you can drop Thiago back to a dud forward and put that money straight back into the squad when, of course, you look to make some transfers in game week 7. So game week 6, you play the free hit. Game week 7, you'd obviously come into here, and you've got your transfers now. And like I said, you can just take Thiago down and upgrade the rest of this squad. Obviously, get a better player in for maybe Gakpo. You could have, of course, maybe upgrade to a more premium defender if you wanted to go down that route. Like I said, there's the route up to Isak as well if he starts to cook really well. So it gets the bench boost out of the way. And then you've got that ability, like I said, just to start just ticking through the weeks and looking very, very good. But you're already bought in nice and early to the Arsenal fixtures anyway, so you could be in a really advantageous position. If you didn't want to go for it in game week 7, game week 8 is also a pretty decent fixture. Thiago's got West Ham, and of course your Burnley boys have Leeds at home. So a pretty decent week again to, of course, maybe play the bench boost. And that is one of the main reasons that I do actually like a game week 4 wildcard, is it does allow you to set up a bench boost and get it out the way and then not have to think about it and start again to remove money off that bench. Let me know what you think of today's wildcard team. Did I get any players wrong? Were there any that I potentially missed? Let me know in the comment section. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in as I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 4.